Blue Quest.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Blue Quest Human Potentials podcast. My name is Johannes. I'm the host, and I'm super happy to have a wonderful guest today here with us. Her name is Rachel Dowling, and she is the founder of Equaliset, a platform that wants to help companies become more equal and diversified in their striving for more sustainability. And I'm super happy to have Rachel, you here with me today. And I mean, let's straight go into who you are and what you do, and let us a bit know what you're doing, why you're doing this, and who's behind that person, Rachel Dowling.
Yeah, thank you so much, Johannes, for having me here today. Um, so, um, yeah, I am. My background is in software product management. I studied at Stanford and Oxford, and then have worked in Silicon Valley for about a decade in different software companies, education technology, and hospitality technology in Europe. And I started a Qualicert earlier this year, and what we're doing is, as Johannes explained, we're kind of helping companies to assess and manage their diversity and inclusion, and we're hoping to make an impact to help companies make that easier, more data-driven, easier to share the results with employees, customers, external stakeholders, as well as internally to manage, and improve their diversity. So that's a brief introduction to me. I tend to, because of my background, I tend to think in data-driven ways. So this field of diversity and inclusion, which can be very fluffy and can be very qualitative,
Mhm.
which is great. It definitely needs that, and it is a human a human topic, but it also, in order to improve it, you have to measure it. And so
Mm.
that's kind of where we're coming in and helping um, helping people to measure it really, so they can set stronger strategies.
Okay, well, wonderful. That's kind of a really honorable goal, I guess, helping people and companies to become more diversified and equal these days. So what made you chose this path? I mean, I know that we talked about this in our last meeting, and you said something that I find particularly true for people that are in product development, product management, right? You and me, we are in product management. We've worked several years as product managers in our respective fields, and you said something like, I think it was, if you are in product management, I guess chances are pretty high that you at one time want to found your own company and bring something into the world. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what made you do this? What's the reasons, the prime reasons behind you founding Equalisert?
Um, I wanted to. I think product management is great training if you want to start a company. You kind of have this mentality that you want to take care of your customers, you want to understand their pain points, you want to give them a solution that really helps them in some way. So it's great training for finding product market fit and building a solution that helps people ultimately. And for me, I wanted to for a long time, I've thought about entrepreneurship. I've thought about starting my own company, but it really was a matter of finding my own confidence to realize, like, I have enough years of experience now. Why not now?
Mhm.
And also, I mean, I think the last year and a half um, kind of put me into a different mindset where I kind of realized, why not now? So much of the world has changed, and for me personally as well. So I just thought, like, this would be um, something I would regret not doing, and for something so meaningful to me, that I decided to start.
Okay, so it's really something that lies deep within you and within your passion, I guess.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it does. As someone who, so as a, I mean, personally, I'm as a woman in technology, it is often that I'm a minority in the teams where I'm working, um, and definitely technology companies also have a problem with underrepresentation of other minority groups. And it's, that's kind of where I got the first feeling about
Hmm.
wanting to make a difference, wanting to make companies more explicitly inclusive, recruit more diverse talents. And the more research I started doing on this, it makes good business sense. It helps businesses actually increase innovation, increase their financial outlook. So it's really a win-win, and of course it helps people get more opportunities, not just in technology companies, but other ways in leadership and management. And so companies that have more diverse leadership teams perform better.
Hmm.
So it's it's also something that um, yeah, I think modern consumers now want to support companies that align with their values,
Hmm.
and there are ways to shop or make purchasing decisions based on sustainability or
Hmm.
workers' conditions in developing nations, but
Hmm.
there isn't really something that actually allows you to look at what is the make purchase decisions based on the company's leadership profile.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to measure it in order to even begin evaluating this kind of impact, right?
Yep, exactly. And there's so much money that's being put into diversity and inclusion these days across the world, but really especially in North America, although it now growingly in Europe as well. Um, and it's not it's not very effective. There are more gains in gender, but in underrepresented minorities, racial groups, or LGBTQ or disability, especially, there's just hasn't been a lot of change.
Hmm.
And I don't think I think companies have a hard time. Like they do programming, they do, there's inputs, but what is the output of it? And a lot of times it's very disappointing. So I just think that there needs to be more focus there, and leaders can hold each other accountable a little bit easier if there's some tooling for them
Yeah,
to use.
absolutely. I mean, I fully agree with you there on this topic. I think it should be treated with the priority it deserves. And I can tell for myself when I started my when I started my career more than 10 years ago. Oh my God, more than 10 years ago already. I started in a studies program that was with Hewlett Packard, right? Quite a technology company, but the people responsible for the studies and dual studies programs, they were quite keen on also in improving this kind of, I would say, the count of female and males, and then the whole equality topic. And they came to interesting conclusions. Sometimes the namings only of the studies program has a huge impact on who applies to, right? I was in the
Hmm.
informatics group, but there was also a business science group, and the business sciences group had a lot more applications by female applicants. And this was mostly due to the naming of the course. And so you can, if you take this data seriously, I guess you can make a huge impact. And I'm happy that there are people in this world that strive towards improving this.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, job descriptions. There's a lot of data that shows the way job descriptions are written, like the words that are used in there, can either encourage more diverse groups to apply or females to apply, or discourage it. So there's actually some cool companies out there that are doing. They'll run natural language processing. They'll run like sort of a semantic analysis sort of filter for the
Mm.
basically keywords which tend to be off-putting or tend to be encouraging.
Hmm.
And so you can put, if you're an HR team, you can put all your job descriptions through that. Kind of a cool technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, coming back to what you said, you had kind of last year this realization of, hey, why not now? Why not at this particular time? So, looking at all the changes that occurred over the last 2 years, I guess, what would be the most impactful realization you had that made you do it? Is there something particular, or was it a general perception? What made you realize, and what was this realization?
Well, in my in my own life, my mother passed away last year, and
Mm.
it was a very shocking, life-changing event. And it was, I mean, on top of everything else that was going on with the world and COVID, but I was it very much like in the aftermath of that. I I just, really realized like how short life is, and
Hmm.
how, if I've been thinking for many years about doing something meaningful in the world, and if I want to have an impact, what am I waiting for?
Mm.
There's no better time than now. So for me, that was impactful. But I think also, I mean, the broader macro environment in which the last year and a half we've all been through with COVID has, I think, um, opened up my mind to think about work and opportunities differently. So
Mm.
I think companies are now realizing like we can hire globally. What is that impact going to be for diversity and inclusion? And companies realize work from home it's both a blessing and a curse,
Mm.
for employees, but it also opens up, and it has been good for some employees with families. It brings
Yeah.
its own challenges as well, but it makes flexibility, is more baked in to the workplace now. So anyway, all these things kind of bubbled up, and then of course with George Floyd happening in the U.S. and a lot of attention being just raised on equity and opportunities for all. Like the time just seemed so right, to start this and try this, and I also realized there was a gap in the market. There's a ton of attention in ESGs and
Hmm.
sustainability,
Hmm.
but nothing like hardly anything really in diversity and inclusion. There are some scattered tools here and there,
Hmm.
and some people doing some cool things, but nothing. Not it's not really
Yeah.
robust yet. So I just felt like this is it. Why not now?
Okay, so you brought your passion and then you saw a sweet spot in the market, which is kind of cool when you want to build a product. I mean, there has to be something kind of a reason why you do it, and there has to be a wide gap where it would fit like. And I think I see it quite the same way. I haven't heard of any kind of big solutions that address this topic at the moment, and I like being data driven, right? I think you can do things right if you focus on the right data, if you make valid choices of attributes, and if you collect things that you can rely on. And that's what I like about your idea to having real fact-based data sets that can help you make and derive meaningful conclusions and then make decisions based on this and not based on cliches or on like opinions, opinionated people. We have a lot of this, and it's good to have like thought leaders that have opinions and strong opinions, but we need to rely more on data and real facts, and that's what I like about your solution. um, all right. I mean, I wanted to talk about this kind of term of defining moment also a bit later on in our podcast, but you brought it up beforehand. So, kind of the defining moment for you was, thank you for sharing that, like a personal, very personal one, and then also like kind of this made you more aware of what happened around you, and then brought you to the realization of kind of well, life is short. Why not do it right now, right? What do you think about defining moments? Do you what do you make of the term? Have you had more of these in your life? Do you think we need them to be like aspiring towards honorable goals? What's your take on that?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think everyone experiences defining moments in their life. Some more than others, and I think some people make something out of it, and can go through really hard times or tragedy and then reflect on it in a way that's very um, that brings something positive into the world. Other people like don't have the resources or don't have a mindset to do that, and then can go in a different direction that
Mm.
isn't as positive. So it's not actually defining moment is a good term that you use, because it doesn't mean it's necessarily an amplifier.
Hmm.
But it is meaningful, and obviously everyone has meaningful moments in their life that change their thinking. Um, so I think it's inevitable. As you're going through life, good things and unfortunately sad things will happen. And I think it's up to you um, to absorb it, to reflect on it, and everyone will react differently based on what resources they have available, what they want to do with it, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, okay, let's switch a bit and go to this kind of the title of this podcast, right? I mean, we're talking about human potential, and as you know, we at Bluequist we use like also data based models to help companies make more and understand more what kind of human potential they have, right? To build on that and to create more meaningful initiatives. And I could imagine that you, with your background and with your aspiring approach of creating more equality, also have kind of a very specific determination and specific kind of identification of human potential. What's human potential for you? How would you define it? How do you see human potential? What's behind that term?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I understand. I mean, you're the expert here, so I'll give you my non-expert. Um, what I think it means is the full growth potential and learning potential that humans have. So it's kind of like if you are every human when they're born, you're kind of like a little seed, and then what do you grow into a tree?
Hmm.
And you know, like your potential is kind of like the height of the tree or the
Yeah.
um, so I think, and kind of in that same analogy, I think the what ground you're put in and how much, you know, water and sunlight and the environment that you're put in can help you reach your full potential. And of course, there's always different types of trees. So everyone's going to start off a little differently and have different, um, you know, might be an apple tree, pear tree, orange tree, you know, everyone's going to be a little different, but you still can reach great heights. Um, in terms of organizations, I think organizations have a huge amount of potential and a lot of untapped potential actually, because it's not just individuals, it's
Hmm.
actually like how the teams work together. And there's um, there's a lot of research that shows that more diverse teams and teams that, in addition to being diverse, that have a welcoming culture, an inclusive culture to differences, perform better. They're more creative. Um, they come up with better performing
Hmm.
outcomes, like the
Yeah, definitely.
actual results. You know, so if you actually um, create a psychologically safe environment, you create a culture where people listen to each other, respect each other. You don't have abuse or aggression within the group. And then you add in some different ideas, different voices, people with different backgrounds, you actually can enrich the whole team's potential more than they would have had without those different voices to spark new ideas.
Absolutely. I mean, what what we thank you for that, and it taps quite into that. What we support with this with our platform is kind of, if you have like you have equality, right? You have equal and diversified society, and we have a lot of traits in it. And this is not just on like a demographic level, but it's also on a personality level, right? And that's what we make tangible with kind of our personality data models around motivations. There are many motivations, and you can accurately measure these motivations, and we make them visible for our teams. And you have people that are super motivated to be high in order, right? And then you have people that are non motivated to create order. You have people striving for power, and you have people striving not for power. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying this is kind of a base motivations people have, and some people don't have it. And what we also see is that if you are transparent on these values, if you live there, if you accept them, and if you transparently know about these values in your team, then you create also a more reliable atmosphere that's providing security because people know each other and accept each other. And this in turn creates then what you call the term more psychological safety, which is a key term for building high performing organizations, definitely. So I mean, now we
Hmm.
have human potential. You wanna respond to that, or
Oh no, sorry. That was just I was nodding along with you.
cool. I think we can build on top of this. Now we have kind of you said a bit on this already, but let's just make it a bit more detailed. Now we have human potential on the one hand, performance on the other, and we have equality right? On also in this bow of topics, and looking at equal teams, and in terms of how do these things go hand in hand, right? Diversity and human potential. What can you tell us in your specific domain as expert about diversity promoting more performance and how it works together?
Yeah. So, um, I mean, the what you were describing as sort of psychological safety, like maybe it's understanding motivations and respecting, having a culture of respect is actually a prerequisite for having
Hmm.
a positive outcome from diversity. So if you start actually, and companies see this, where if they hire, they make an effort to hire diverse groups, they maybe go to historically Black universities to recruit new starters, or they bring in community like Indigenous or Latinx communities, and they hire more employees. But if the culture is not very welcoming to them, or if they don't have a
Hmm.
path forward to get promoted or to succeed, they can feel alienated, and you actually don't get any benefit from diversity. They're actually going to you're going to struggle with retaining them. So companies will see higher employee turnover rates from they spend a lot of effort to attract and hire diverse
Hmm.
candidates, but then they end up leaving if the culture isn't um, welcoming and respectful, and people treat each other well,
Hmm.
and like true colleagues. So um, they go hand in hand, but I think the you're not going to see the benefit of diversity unless you first work on inclusion and belonging, and creating a sense of belonging
Hmm.
for everyone in your company.
All right. And how would you tackle that to make it better? I mean, if we look at broader society, right, there's a lot of initiatives and discussions, and news media outlets are really like intensively reporting about these topics. So, how do you see this being currently addressed in broader scale of society? Do you think it's on a good way? Do you see any problems with how it's being currently discussed in media? And what's your point of the societal view in terms of promoting diversity and inclusion?
Um, Well, to pick up on the first question that you asked, like how do you start to tackle
Yeah,
inclusion?
yeah.
Um, there's um, there are a lot of experts in the field here, but I think a lot of it comes um, to sensitizing people to other humans, like working on empathy skills, working on
Hmm.
communication skills, respectful communication skills, working on listening. I mean, a lot of it is just a lot of communication is listening to what other people say,
Yeah.
um, and I think companies are some are doing a lot here, others are not yet, but companies are helping their employees to form groups, also to talk about flashpoint issues that are coming up in society. So in the U.S. and Canada, where there have been a lot of recent events
Hmm.
of police brutality or other really um, uh, dramatic events in the media and in society. And companies are forming groups so employees can talk to each other about it and their experience, and how have you experienced racism. And so having communities and forums to discuss and get support from each other has been helpful. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but I think a lot of it comes to creating space, like being
Hmm.
kind. Kindness is I think at the root of it, and treating people like human beings, and with respect, not just as a cog in the wheel to do their job and clock out at 5 p.m. So yeah, that's I think companies have a big part to play, because employees work 8 hours,
Yeah.
sometimes more,
Yeah.
per day, and it's a very um, meaningful space for a lot of people, because they're so much, a third of their life is in their job.
Absolutely. Not, I mean, sometimes even more, right? Sometimes even more, and that's even bad enough. But then you should have a happy life and a happy atmosphere, I guess. kindness is a superpower. I think if you are kind, and that it is something that's universal, right? If you can promote kindness and be kind, that's independent from race, independent from gender, independent from anything. Just be kind to each other, and that's which sometimes I think it shouldn't be too hard to be kind, but obviously we see a lot of things in this world that show us that it's sometimes obviously for some people hard to be kind to each other. So I'm also promoting kindness as a superpower, and I would strive for this as being a key aspect, being taught how to be kind to other people. um, all right. So I would really be interested. I mean, we talked now a lot about socio-economic topics and your opinions on and our opinions on this. But what is like, where are you standing right now with equality? What's your next steps? What are you currently doing? And what what's your next ambitions here?
Yeah, we are we're a pretty early stage company, so we're working with our initial customers right now. We're refining our product for them and listening to feedback. So right now we're at the stage of our startup as kind of refining the MVP
Mhm,
and onboarding our initial clients. And another thing that we're working on is we're talking to some enterprise like really large companies who have procurement teams, and they're interested to analyze their supply chains
mhm,
because they want to look at. I mean, supplier diversity is something that's very prevalent in procurement right
mhm,
now, but the way that it's been done over the last 5-10 years is only looking at supplier diversity as women-owned or minority-owned businesses, but
mhm,
not looking beneath the surface at other companies um, that are not owned
mhm,
necessarily by a minority, but that just looking at beneath the surface of companies, like what is your management team actually composed of, or below the C-suite, but through the ranks,
yeah.
and how what is the culture, what are the employees actually saying in the company. So actually, that's I think that's going to be the next wave, the future of supplier diversity in procurement, and so we're excited about that. We're talking to some procurement leaders about how they can leverage our technology and ask their supply chain to start to get certified and assessed using a QualiCert, so that um, the the entire supply chain can be monitored, and the procurement team can spend their dollars in a way that aligns with their values. So, yep, that's exciting for us. We're we're also interestingly talking to some venture capitalists who are want to same idea, but like look at their portfolio of companies in the same way. So basically, look at their impact in investing, and how what is the diversity and inclusion profile of their investment portfolio. So that's kind of what's up with us, and yeah, we're excited. We're listening to feedback. We're trying to take our own medicine, listen to our customers, and modify and adapt and improve our product.
Cool. I think we should take another time to discuss this kind of team and supply chain topic on a larger scale or on a more detailed note, because also we talk to VCs right now that also want to understand how diversified in terms of motivations, personal characteristics, and skills are their teams, right? Are their bets in the market. And this is also kind of, if you look at due diligence, right, of startup teams or due diligence of companies that are on early stage, due diligence often involves financial due diligence, process due diligence, and all these kind of technological due diligence topics that you would expect to find in a company in order to make a valid assessment: is this a good bet? But what you almost never find is a due diligence on kind of the team, on the personnel level, on the personality level. And I guess what you say is quite true, that we will see a rise up in or rising in those kind of, I call it due diligence in terms of team diversity, right? And
Yeah,
team staffing and this need. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And actually, from an investor perspective, there should be much more. I mean, I'm sure from a motivation, from Blue Quist perspective as well, but I know it from a diversity standpoint. Like companies that have gender diverse and racial diversity in their leadership teams perform better. So if you're investing, you would rather have your portfolio set some targets to perform better, and you're going to have a greater chance of doing that if you have more diversity among teams. So and not just diversity, as I said, but also this the sense of inclusion and belonging, which because otherwise diversity without that is you're going to end up only with conflict and not productive innovation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that insight also on that note. So let's say one of our listeners today says, wow, equality cert is a cool idea and I want to support that. I will give you $100,000. So what would you do with $100,000 on the spot?
um, yeah, I I would probably bring on board solidify our team. Right now as I said, we're still pretty early stage, so just we we're basically some of us are full time, some are part time contracting, and so I would bring on more of our team full time.
Okay, you would. I mean, that's a logical decision. I probably would also bring more team on full time if we had more capital at the moment. So that's team is always the limiting factor, but also finding the right people is right now pretty hard because well, skill market is quite empty at even for big companies and well respected companies. It's hard to find the right skills. So I think in our terms, you can score a few points with a nice vision and a great purpose. That helps us to find the right talent, right?
Yeah, we've actually been very lucky. It's been crazily easy to find people to who are passionate about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
So I honestly I've done hiring in the past, and it's always taken a long, long time, and it takes to court people, and and honestly, it's been night and day equality. I mean, there are people who have just experienced racism or you know experiences in the workplace which they don't want other people to experience, and so they're motivated to do something about it.
All right. Now that's super interesting. And let's now. I mean, if we talk about equality and diversity and assessing this with technology, we might also have to talk about technology itself, right? And limitations and ethical use of technology. I guess we're both aspiring to found a or to create a company that is really driven by insights and analytics and technology. So we have a responsibility of making this kind of I would say personally for me transparent and reliable and as specific as possible so that you can understand what's happening. But looking at technology as well, how do you assess technology? Where is it where do you need it and where do you use it and where are the limitations where you say okay here we need to be really careful how we use like algorithms technology automated um, processes. What's your point on that as personally and maybe even at your company?
Yeah, so we are, I mean, when the first thing is we don't collect any personally identifiable information
Mhm.
about the employees. So we're very careful on privacy and security because um, it is sensitive, just sharing how you feel in the workplace, and especially if you're writing something, when we ask for employee feedback. So we don't, it's completely anonymous, the feedback that we're gathering, and also anonymous the employee data on the demographics that we're gathering from the HR team. So that's most important for us, to look at aggregate data and to look at anonymized data, but really to respect employees and not collect personally identifiable data. In terms of, I mean, I think there's a limit to how much you can conclude from data. It's not going to tell you all the whys. It's going to present you the status, and then from there, maybe give you some hints about whys. I mean, we show you, where your organization stands, and we also
Mhm.
can show you some. What was your hiring rate among different demographics from the last year? What was your turnover rate from different demographics over the last year.
Mhm.
So you can, and what was your promotion rate, in different groups? So you can make some educated guesses about like, well, we see a higher turnover rate in this group. Maybe that means that this group of people is disproportionately experiencing something negative in the culture. Like, let's pay attention to that. But then it won't tell you um, exactly what is happening. So then you have to ask more questions, and probably have more conversations. So I think at the end of the day, management teams, HR teams still need to have those conversations, still need to listen to their employees. This is not the the
Mhm.
end, but
Yeah.
it's helping them to form a strategy, understand where they want to be, and then set goals. So you can say, okay, for next year we want to be here. Now let's dig in, and in between now and next
Mhm.
year, we need to dig in, understand, make some changes, and then we can assess again.
Okay. It sounds a bit like, for me, like you're giving them educated and valid, I would say, insights, right, to a certain degree, but then you transfer the responsibility of acting upon that and making more insightful validations within their respective sphere in the company, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll point them to resources that can help, consultants who they may want to engage with, who can do workshops, or resources where they can uh, y- um, get ideas for what to do. But we are not a consultancy, and we're not going to be the surgeon to come in and make the changes. I mean, the companies themselves at the end of the day need to make the best choices for themselves. The management does, and they know their company better than anyone else, so they can make the decisions about what tools are going to be appropriate to use and what they have financial support for.
Mhm.
So we help companies to think about ideas for their roadmap, but we're not going to make the roadmap for them.
Okay. Well, I like that. You provide information and you're like kind of this technology and information provider, and then people can act upon that, and it's their responsibility to create the right atmosphere and environment. That's, I like it. Um, okay, we're coming slowly to the end of our 40-minute slot here. So I most often ask this question, this last question: if you had a wish free, right, that you could now take and say, okay, I have this one wish and it will become reality because I just can't do it. What would that be? I mean, it's a hard question, I know, but maybe you have an answer to that and you can enlighten us what that wish would be for you.
Um, this is like rubbing the lamp, and the genie comes out and gives me one
Yeah,
wish.
I guess that's exactly what I'm asking. Yeah.
Okay. um, it's that's a hard one. I mean, I would wish. Coming back to what we were discussing earlier, I wish for kindness. I would wish that people bring a dose of kindness, a greater dose of kindness, where they tap into their heart center when they're not just when they're at home meditating in the morning, but also when they're at work, and conducting their business. I think that would go a long way towards improving improving the world, because work is such a big part of what we do, and what fills the day for many people, and what gives people opportunity, and how they feed their families. So I think more kindness in the world.
Well, I can sign that. I give my signature under that wish. That's approved. Thank you so much for letting us know that, Rachel. All right, cool. Then we are at the end of our time for this podcast. I really much enjoyed talking to you. Thank you a lot for your insights and for your personal stories, also, Rachel. I'm hopeful, and I guess our listeners will really like what you had to share. And well, with this, I can only say thank you so much for your time, and I wish you a lot of success for your company and your ambitions over the next weeks and months.
Thank you so much, Johannes. Yeah, it was a pleasure for me as well. Thank you for inviting me here.
BlueQuest www.bluequist.com